Ghost Bond Platinum versus Walker Tape Ultra Hold. Acrylic versus water-based glue. So I've been trying Platinum Ghost Bond for about a month, putting it all over my forehead and then putting it on the hairpiece and then putting the two together. And what I found is, despite the fact that there's no stickiness or mess really happening around the front hairline, the point at which the hairs back here at the perimeter start lifting because the glue is not strong enough to stick down to the edge points on the perimeter, causes a lot of lifting all up around the edges to the point that it's annoying me, and then I end up just taking the whole thing off. So I figured that maybe if I just have Platinum all along here and along the front whole half of the hairpiece and then put a sliver of Ultra Hold, I'm going to try that today. Perhaps that will give me the dry feeling of having no melted glue ever, and also allow the hairs to stay back down here. Now with Platinum, it doesn't stick back down after it's lifted, but with Ultra Hold, you can kind of stick it back down, but you've got this sticky, gluey mess, and it's all around the edges all the time. So I'm going for the lesser of both evils in each case. And I've taken this hairpiece here, which is potentially too small for me. And I'm going to just wet it with water so that I'll be able to see what I'm doing. Now this is mostly made of Platinum, Ghost Bond Platinum throughout the hairpiece, all the way to the front hairline, and the back strip here will be Ultra Hold on top of that. Plus I've pre-glued all of this down to a certain point with Ghost Bond Platinum as well. It'll be a somewhat weaker hold, but it'll be a dry hold. So I'm going to put this on just by spraying alcohol onto the glue. I'm trying to put it into position. I feel like this hairpiece probably is too small for me because I feel like the hairline is mostly in the right position, but at the back it's not reaching all the way back to the perimeter. Also, it's always difficult with these triangle corners to make it line up nicely all the way across. My hair still isn't quite long enough to do exactly what I want, which is cover over everything, but I feel like it's long enough on the back and sides. I'd say my hair, my natural bio hair now is about 1 inch long. But I'd like to see it reach 1.5 inches at the top so I can brush over the perimeter gaps. The hairpiece I just took off before putting this one on, you can see really through that gap there. And I'm going to let that remain because I want the front hairline to be good. Why don't I swap this with another hairpiece just for you, for this video? Because I just have already set it all up, okay? This hairpiece just doesn't quite fit. And yeah, so the one I just took off my head was quite short, and I made it short so it would just fluff around the front. But with this one I might keep it. That's too long really. I'll probably have to give myself a haircut. What I was really hoping to do here is to avoid a haircut. And I'm going to avoid getting any water in there because that is water-based glue. It takes quite a long time for the alcohol to evaporate out of the ghost bond, making you think that it hasn't stuck, but if you wait maybe an hour, it's a bit stronger. Like, it really does cure a bit more over time. I don't know that curing is really relevant to Ultra Hold, because it just remains wet and sticky pretty much at all times. You can see how white it is. That's either just from the alcohol spray or maybe from the water from the hairpiece that I've got on right now, which I hope it isn't. I hope it's just from the alcohol spray. I'm really avoiding, as much as I can, getting it wet. But it seems impossible to brush my hair when when it's drying like that. Actually, I feel like even though that's got a gap back there, this is still a bit too high, but it feels like it's kind of in close to the right spot. I wouldn't complain about that positioning too much, I think. Although maybe I would. Maybe I'd like to bring it down an extra centimetre. Just feeling the back here to feel if there's overhang, and there isn't. So this hairpiece is probably about 1 to 1.5 centimetres too shallow in terms it's not deep enough, not long enough. I don't think I can finish this video without editing, so I'm going to go and wait for this to dry, decide whether or not I want to give myself a haircut, and maybe try it out a bit before I tell you what my conclusions are, and also whether or not this has kind of solved the problem that this causes, which is there's no way for this stuff to stick down along those back perimeter hairs that are coming in from the edges. But it does seem to stick okay at the front, if it's not leveraged. What is the word for leveraged, by the way? Prized? I don't know what the word is. Alexa, turn on the light. I spent quite a while researching this. The answer is joggle, to gently move up and down. And it causes, that's J-O-G-G-L-E. I couldn't find a better word. I looked at a lot of thesaurus words along the same lines, but joggle really is what we're talking about here. I probably will end up giving myself a haircut, maybe quite short, maybe 2 inches rather than 3. 2's about there. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll show you how I give myself a haircut. Spray water over the front part. It is nice to just spray it all over as well, just so it doesn't behave differently. Now, if you have a full topper, this is too hard, just get it done at the factory. But if you just want to give yourself a trim at the front because you just want to give yourself a haircut, I divide everything into lines of about this much hair. So given that's the length of my hairpiece, I'd have about 4 or 5 lines. And I just use standard scissors. They're easy to get my fingers in and out of because I'm going to tilt them towards myself. If you use little finger hole scissors, it's very difficult to angle them towards yourself easily. And in terms of the length, you start by kind of matching the hair length back here if it's 1.5 inches or more. If it's not 1.5 inches, don't cut your hairpiece beneath 1.5 inches, otherwise it'll just stick up like a doormat. Also, you don't want to do big, long scissor cuts right across that are flat. You want to kind of go down on angles with separated little snips along the way so that the hairs are somewhat a little bit different length, not just one scarecrow length. Now for me, because I know I don't want to pick it all up at the end, sometimes I try to just cut it from underneath, which despite what some people have said in the comments over the years, is not a problem. In fact, it's a smart thing to do. Sometimes you just can't avoid it though, and you just have to shake all the hair out of yourself at the end. If I was to do it properly all the time, I'd always do it that way, okay? But just to save time on cleanup, sometimes I cut it from underneath. I'm going for about a 2, maybe 1.5. No, I'll go for about a 2-inch haircut, which will land about midway down my forehead when the hairs are wet, and recoil back up when they dry. This will actually fluff in such a way that it conceals your hairline, which is a good thing when you're wearing a hairpiece, because hairlines aren't usually very good. So I'm going to be selecting the 4th layer now. As you can see, I'm getting progressively longer towards the front hairline, towards the fringe. It's going to be a fairly short cut. You can see there's still some lifting, well, there's a lot of lifting still going on there. It looks like I'm going to have to apply more glue over that area, because that really has had enough time to dry. Although I've done this before and it was a bit of sweat that was potentially caught in there, so maybe I don't need to. I will go without glue and see if it resolves itself like it did last time. Okay, I've cleaned all the hairs off the sink and the floor. I'm gonna examine this a little bit. How bad that big gap is in there. It's quite a big problem in there, isn't it? And you can see the plastic up there as well. So that's the importance of making sure that you have a hairpiece that actually fits your shave zone exactly. I kind of already knew this one was going to be a little bit too short, but I didn't want to just throw it away without using it. Seems like it's got just enough length to be able to hold itself back on. But if I were to flip it, which is probably how I would probably more commonly wear it when it dries and stuff, it would probably just rest around here without coming down too far. Doesn't look good yet. I'll put some leave-in conditioner in my hair and leave it to dry, maybe go to bed, and then hopefully hold on a bit of film my hair when I dry, when I wake up or when it's dry. And hopefully this will stick down on its own after any sweat eventually evaporates out of the gap. Because that is what happened last time. It just dried and it worked on its own. And it's nice to have those greys gone away. About a year or two ago, I didn't have grey hair. I can't remember how long ago it was, but I said I might not worry too much about going grey, because at a certain age you kind of expect it to look grey, so it doesn't really matter. I'll get back to this when it's dry. Bit of a gap there, but it all seems to align at the front hairline. And that's what I kind of look like. Now, without this buffiness, I don't have any length, so I kind of got to endure some buffiness here with my natural Ronald McDonald hair. It's less red than when I was young, but as you can see, the I don't know what the time was when I last left you, but it's been a few hours, I think. Because I've got kind of buffy hair, which is, you know, it wants to be curly, I think, if I grew it long enough. It's not the sort of hair that you should really brush, although I've always longed for Tom Cruise, you know, hair that just lands perfect every time. Those of you with dead straight hair, and I've seen that around, it's not very common in my world, I guess, or I haven't looked at it properly. I guess the only time I ever really see it's dead straight is when somebody with very straight hair cuts it short, and then it's weirdly straight, which is like no wave to it at all. So when I say Tom Cruise has straight hair, I know it's got some wave to it, but after about a meter, right? It's not like just instantly going pubes, right, like that. And I haven't got afro either, so those people are like, what do you mean you got curly hair, right? I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's buffy, okay? I've got that gap in there too. But I think the best solution is here, that this is probably the ideal length for my back and sides so that I can have some sweep. I have a rule here, but then it doesn't go to the edge. You can still roughly estimate. Just crunch it down into my scalp a bit. I'll add an extra centimetre to, God, I should have brought my glasses with me. What does that even say? Is that a 4? It's about 5 centimetres long, which is about 2 inches. That's not right, it's not 2 inches long, that's damn sure. Yeah. This one does inches and centimeters, and when I think about hair, I usually think in inches, which is very non-metric of me. Okay, it's the best I can hold it. My hair is just almost 1.5 inches, which is perfect, but not at top on top. It's perfect everywhere else. It's also not perfect here at the sideburns. So I do think I appreciate the taper when it comes to sideburns. And a lot of the issue with sideburn cutting is that I want to get rid of the grays, which are all frazzly and everything. So after dyeing it, I feel like that's kind of relaxed the hair a bit. And I only dyed just in there. Though I've noticed I've started getting some grays up here too. So it's gonna hit me. It's gonna all just come. And I found a grey hair in my eyebrow the other day, which I plucked out. After that, I went and found some tweezers. I don't want that to ever happen again. Though I think it is possible to dye my eyebrows just like I dye my hair as well. So it shouldn't really be a problem if I want to keep the greys away. Also, please write in the comments if you know a good product for getting rid of greys that is available in Australia. I'm using proper hair dye, like I'm mixing two components together to do it properly. But I don't think that should be necessary because there's grey away and stuff, isn't there? The main reason I got that hair dye was to dye hair pieces, which I think you need a stronger dye than just that stuff I don't know, I guess using the shower or something. And don't recommend something that you've seen ads for but haven't tested or been recommended by a real person. So I'm not going to brush this. I'm going to expect that this is exactly how I want it to sit, except for the fact that this hairpiece is too thin, it's not deep enough. And I'll keep trying to grow some of this on top up further. So it's about, I don't know, it depends on how much I want this to be long as well. So between 2 and 3 inches, I think, and try to keep my hair length on the back and sides at 1.5 inches. So I want to try to always have, and back here where the head curves, I think I'll keep that 1.5 inches as well until I get to this point here, like this. And that's where I'd start graduating it up from 1.5 up to 2 or 3 inches. 3 inches gives me coverage sweeping forward over the hairs over here. And the great thing about having a 2-inch hair, which springs back up like this, is that it conceals the front hairline at all times. Though not completely, you're going to see bits and pieces of the front hairline. So if it's dirty or if the roots are ugly, people will see. And if the wind blows, they'll see. So that's why I've always said the best solution is to have blonde hairpiece that you dye yourself, if you can even achieve that. And I partially achieved it. You know what the problem was? I could never get low enough, even though I was mostly avoiding dripping bits of dye into the hairpiece onto the base, which is game over. Because if you've got a stained hair base, that's highly visible unless you really conceal all of it. The problem was I could never get low enough, so I had this idea. What if I get darker blonde? Then it will be less apparent. I think one of the main problems for me over the years with poly roots not being dyed for that doll's hairlines is that the doll's hairlines are too dark. So if we get something like really light brown or really light or like darker blonde, then we're sort of moving away from the complete blonde, which would be absolutely invisible, true, but it's just too hard to dye down that low, which gives you a weird, even though it blends, it's not just a sudden blonde brown wall where it's just the dye just stops, it didn't penetrate down a little bit. It always blends nicely when you dye it, but this is something, this is all workaround while we wait for the factory to start making hairpieces that have bleached roots. But if you could have darker blonde roots, so if you went and bought dark blonde hairpieces, maybe that's the way to do it. And then you can, if you've got brown hair, then you can dye your brown over the top of those dark blonde roots. And I'm investigating that at the moment. For me, I want to continue using these leaf shapes because they're economical and they fit in this box. These are some of pre-glued, and then the ones I haven't pre-glued. This is one I had on for a month up until today. I'm going to keep it. I've cleaned it. It took me 45 minutes to use my thumb to get rid of all the glue off the back. Still haven't figured out a nice way to get rid of the glue off the hair pieces. But it has extremely dark, and it fits as well. It doesn't have this gap back up here. And it was cut much shorter than this. It was cut to like, I don't know. This is more like, some parts of this are like 2.75 inches, I think. And then, but it had dark roots. It had the really dark doll's hairlines. I feel like this is a better color match overall than that one as well for my real hair. But as always, I haven't dyed these hair pieces to match my real color hair. I just buy whatever the company is selling, and I just pick color number 4, medium dark brown, and it's usually good enough. Although the company is not always absolutely accurate with color number 4. It's not always the same. But yeah, I think this generic men's hairstyle, which is 1.5 inches, 1 to 1.5 inches everywhere, back and sides, and then from this point onwards, not this point onwards, you don't want that whole weird patoolement problem. You want it to blend with the shape of your head. I think going from 1.5 for the rest of your life at all times, unless you want to give me a head with hair, right, and be a hippie, I'm not going to have the same hairstyle for the rest of my life. But I am getting old and can't be bothered anymore, so I might. So 1.5 all around, right, back and sides, and then start going from this point onwards, a bit longer, to the 3 inches. With my massive forehead, and it's not balding. I didn't used to grow hair all up down here, right? That was always like that. I reckon 1.5 general, 2 to 3 on top. That will give you a nice, 2 will give you a nice short coverage here if you don't brush it. If you brush it, it's gonna potentially reveal the hairline. So solving the hairline problem, because it's nice to have a brush back look and everything else, we gotta do something about those roots. And I don't want to go back to lace because glue's a nightmare. With the ultra hold at the back, just one strip right back there, and the rest being held down by this. I don't have that wet feeling, but then again, if I wanted to, I couldn't lift this up and stick it back elsewhere if I changed my mind. But I shouldn't have ever really been doing that anyway. If you land in a bad placement when you're putting it on, I know it's a pain in the ass, but you have to take it off and do it again, or just live with it. Don't try ripping it up and removing it like I always do. That's why it gets loose as well. But the looseness back here comes from weak ass glues like this not sticking to the perimeter hairs back here. They'll stick to the forehead, which has nothing except skin to stick to, but they just won't stick to hair. It's just too thin and weak. But this layer here on top, there's no lifting at all because this can easily stick to hair. Okay, that's it. Which do I prefer? not wet. I like it not being wet, but it can't stick to the perimeter. Testing this on top back here, I feel like that's going to solve that problem. The inability for this stuff to be lifted up and moved is something I shouldn't have even been doing in the first place. It's because I had bad placement and because this was melting and lifting. This doesn't melt. It's like hard plastic until it's dead. That's it. Sweat can get in between it and ruin the hold, which is why I don't really completely trust it. Whereas this sweat plus this melting makes this just a sticky mess at all times. But it can be re-adhered when there are mistakes. With this one, you cannot make mistakes. You're not allowed to make mistakes with this. There's no leniency at all. It's just hard plastic. You better have put it down in the right spot the first time. You better avoid sweat and water and everything else. But it will not stick to the perimeter. You're going to have lifting all around your perimeter. In my case, my perimeter is just there. When I had a full topper, it was all around there, right? This would not have held at the perimeter. And you don't want gaps. There are places all around the perimeter where you've got hairs sticking up like that and you need to glue over the top of them. That's where the hairpiece needs to land. There's no way around it. So, which glue do I prefer? At the moment, I think the solution is I have to use both. What about tape? Tape is super weak and messy and hard to get off the hairpiece, so no. A combination of this and this is now my new world order.